All right, good morning, everybody. How we doing? We still awake? All right. Coffee is still available outside. So, really excited to talk about this today because listen, segmentation is hard. There are three types of people that are out probably in the audience. Those that are still doing batch and blast, those that are still doing cohort or groups, and those that are truly achieve that one-to-one messaging we've been talking about for the last 25 years. But how do you get there? And how do you admit that what data you have is what you have to work with, right? And I'm joined on stage today. I'm really excited because Danielle and Megan really represent two sides of the fence in terms of going beyond batch and blast. So I want you guys to introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about your program. How is it from a sophistication standpoint, a segmentation standpoint? Tell the crowd about what you do in your business, what you're responsible for, and what you profess to love every day.
Yes, so at the Thunder, we house Thunder emails. We also house our G League team, the Blue, and then we assist with the arena. It's city-owned, but we do assist them and partner up with them as well for concerts. So we kind of have a wide array, but for Thunder, just by itself, we actually do all the emails. So that's down to Thunder Youth Basketball Camps. It may be a sponsored community event. We do tickets, we do sponsors, we do season ticket members. So we really actually have a huge array of emails that we send from our very small team of 2 people. And so that is one thing we struggle with is it's a smaller team, but we have a lot of emails that we send. And we do a lot of segmentation. We actually have ticketing data, merch data, food and beverage data, down to there's data we get from youth basketball camps about a parent of children. So we have a lot of data that we can work with. So it is great to figure out what we can do with it.
And you actually told me, and we'll get back to this, that you have too much data and you have to really choose what you use.
Yes, it's trying to figure out what the goal is, and if you do too much testing, then you have no idea what actually works.
All right. And Meg?
Hi, I'm Megan. I am from TransUnion, the credit bureau. Unfortunately, I have no power to help anyone with their credit scores.
Damn it.
Here today.
We're done here. This is it. All right.
I know, that's why I get invited to a lot of things. I think I've got power, but I don't. But I'm on the consumer side, so we have credit monitoring products as well as identity protection products. So I run all of the email marketing for each of those products, both acquisition and retention.
And you told me that your style on segmentation is really broad segments based upon how they fall in a credit score schema. Tell a little bit about that, because I want to get into what segmentation looks like for each of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have credit score ranges that we can see on all of our customers, and that is the key area that we've seen the most improvement on engagement, is if we separate all those credit score ranges.
And your customer groups, though, are complex because you have certain types of customers with different motivations about why they're involved with TransUnion, right?
Yes, we have people there who are looking to either improve their credit score or they're looking to purchase a house or a car. We also have people who are sort of towards the end, 50s, about to retire, and they have built great credit and they don't want anything to happen to that credit right before retirement.
So they're in that protection mode, right? I'm monitoring it, I don't really care, or I do care, but I'm not that involved in it.
Right, yeah.
And
I've done my job, I've gotten that great credit score. Now how do I protect it? Because it's really hard to get it back if you lose it.
And Danny, you have program after program after program. Pick one. Tell us about what that segmentation looks like. You were telling me on our call that you're looking at what kind of seat they buy, if they're a season pass holder, how often they buy. You're looking at like an immense amount of data to segment on.
Yeah, so I think the easiest one to talk about is season ticket members. So we have like how long they've been a season ticket member, where they sit in the arena, if they buy additional tickets, if they come with their family. We also want to be able to service them. We have an entire service team for them. So being able to survey them and ask them, like, do they arrive and get a Coke and then go get chicken nuggets and then sit at the seat? We want to know their entire journey so that rep can represent. They can meet them there and say, hey, I actually already have your Coke and chicken nuggets. It's already at your seat, and you can go enjoy that and watch the game. So we want to get it as personalized as possible and make sure that we can know everything about them without knowing everything about them.
How do you do that? How do you put that together with a team of 2 and all that data, how are you constructing that email, that strategy? How
Yeah.
does that transform onto the email?
Yeah, I think it starts with not only do we have a really amazing warehouse and partners that help us with that, but we really work with the reps to say, what is your goal? So they have a different group, and it may be we have an event coming up. What are things we can do? So we work really closely with all these different departments. We have a lot of meetings, and we want to know what the goal is. So I'm actually housed with the BI team, so for us, it's all about the goal of the data. If they're like, well, we want to ask these 4 questions, we really test them on that and say, will question 1 really get you closer to your goal? If not, let's leave that out and go with questions 2 through 4.
And you actually tried one-to-one. You were telling me a story. You tried one-to-one messaging, and how did that go?
Yeah, so he asked us very quickly on our call what our first failure was, and I won't say it was a failure, but we tried to do the most, like, we spent all summer long trying to figure out what game somebody would buy. It was a big predictive analytics goal. We worked all summer. We had this algorithm. It was amazing, and we implemented it and sold no more tickets than we would have sold if I would have just put random teams on their email. So it was one of those where it was like, yes, it's not like it made it worse, but there was no win there. We didn't sell more tickets. They still bought the games they wanted to buy and against the opponents they wanted to watch, and I never have to do that project again.
So does that mean one-to-one is dead for you, or it just that one experiment didn't work?
It's definitely, you want to look at the results. In that instance, it did not sell more tickets, and there was no reason for us to spend our time on it. But then on our season ticket member conversation, if we can meet them with what they exactly want, then they're more likely to come back.
Okay. Because your background's in statistics.
Yes, I've
Right?
never taken a marketing course in my life.
That's fantastic. You match everybody else in this audience that never went to school for email. Meg, you're trying a one-to-one experiment at this, or a test at this point.
Yeah, we're going slowly but surely. So our one-to-one that we're trying to do right now is on our welcome email. We're trying to input dynamic content into that email based on different factors. So credit score range again, since we've had success in kind of the more batch and blast approach there. And then also things like, we know if you download the app, you're more likely to stay a little bit longer, so we're going to have that as a dynamic module as well. SMS, trying to get people to opt in for SMS alerts and whatnot. So having all of those in the welcome email is where we're trying to go a little bit more one-on-one.
And how big a project is that for you guys? Not only in constructing the dynamic elements, but knowing that data is accurate. You were telling me the groups that you have are transitory or kind of gray around the edges in terms of you could have somebody that's interested in watching their credit but also trying to build their credit at the same time, so you're mixing messages. What's the effort behind that dynamic work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to do right now, since we don't know exactly why somebody is coming in from an email perspective, we're focused on the things that we do know. So we do know what their credit score ranges are. We do know kind of their age, so we can make some assumptions there, and that's what we've been doing. I think the most difficult for us is just the legal aspect, making sure that we have it very clear as to, who's going to get what.
Who's going to get what? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about legal for about 5 seconds, because I know it's a pain point for a lot of people. So talk to me about how legal is with your program. How much is that a barrier or a accelerator?
Yeah, so I'd say legal is certainly a formidable challenger on a lot of things. I'm sure anyone who's in the finance world here knows the same thing. There's a lot of stuff that they're just not exactly happy with. So our big one is the air quotes, improve your credit score. That's something our legal team would never, ever let us say, even though we know that's something like the customer's end goal essentially is yes, I want to improve my credit score, but we can't say that. So trying to figure out ways around those specific words, but still being able to give the customer the idea of what they want, which is, okay, I can give you tools. It's your responsibility to improve. So working closely with legal has been paramount to making that happen. So figuring out what are they most comfortable with, and then we can go with that.
All right, Danny.
Yeah, we talked about it. So we have a legal team, but I don't talk to them very often. I talk to the other, today legal team, which is basketball operations. So obviously Thunder is a brand, but each player is also their own brand, and so we have to work with the basketball operations team to make sure that if something is, it has a player in it, has their name, can we use the nickname here, can we not? Like, there's a lot of different, I guess, legalities of making sure that we're representing their brand well as well, even though I'm representing the Thunder brand.
Right. So you guys, like I said before, operate in two different modes, right? Whole kind of data that you can parse through and segment, transitory data with gray areas, right? I think our dream for the last 20 years as an industry is to always get to that one-to-one. But in your opinion, does that need to exist for everybody? Is it possible to just be happy with where you're at and this is the extent because of the reality of the day?
Yeah, I think we run into, since we have so much data, there's kind of twofold of areas you can fall into as well as pitfalls is we have so many ideas and then we try to test all of them and have no idea what works, or we have so many ideas and we don't have the execution bandwidth. So we may say, hey, we know that these people like jerseys and these people want hats and these people want shoes, but we don't have the marketing graphics team to make all of those graphics every single week so that we can be doing one-to-one in our newsletter every week. There's just no bandwidth to make that many graphics for us. So we run into these really great ideas that we can't implement, or we have too many ideas and we have no idea what's working.
Yeah, I still think we're in that area, that gray area too, of like how much is too much knowledge essentially of a person. So obviously that Target and pregnancy example where the dad found out that his daughter was pregnant because Target was giving him advertisements that were all pregnancy related. I think we're still running into that challenge of how much is too much information that you know about me. And especially in the credit world, like, I don't think people want to see, you know, their exact information in an email and knowing what they can and cannot get, you know, approved for, or any kind of, you know, more sensitive information. So I think in the finance world, it might be a little bit more difficult to go to the one-on-one and make it effective and not, you know, scary.
Yeah, because the end user would freak out if it was that one-to-one in some
I think
respect.
so, yeah.
It's better served, in your example, your channel is better served by sending them a website where they can have that complicated information and PII, but within a secure environment. So your job is more lead generation to bring them tips, tricks, you know, lessons and all that stuff, but eventually bring them into the site, whereas yours is, I want conversion. You, from a KPI perspective, you went from, I don't have to do anything, I don't have a KPI, to now you do, right?
Yeah, we talked about, so if you have followed NBA basketball at all, the Thunder, we went sold out for many seasons in a row, and I would always get the question, what's your ROI for email marketing? And I was like, it's to send emails. That's pretty much the ROI. There was no ticket conversions. We were selling out of camps. There was just nothing that I had to measure on. And there was a point in time where we weren't winning as many games, and we turned into a completely different goal where now I need to know how many tickets you're selling, where's the tickets coming from, and we had to completely change our strategy and almost come up with a strategy because we didn't have one. And it was a complete shift in just where our measurements were, what we were measured on, and then had to figure out kind of a whole new plan of email marketing.
So what is the dream with personalization, segmentation? What would you like to accomplish? And tell us how you're moving toward that, right? You're a team of 2, you're a team of 3, fantastic. So how do you move there incrementally? How, you know, you've got the next 9 months to execute something to hit your goals. Tell me what your dream is and how you're going to get there.
So for us, I think we'd love to do automation again because we have, you know, a lean, mean fighting machine. To find ways to have those triggered campaigns go out that will help, you know, improve engagement and whatnot for our customers. That would be the step that we're trying to take right now is little wins of like a little targeted campaign here, a triggered campaign there, you know, starting off small and building off of that.
I'm almost going to say the exact same thing.
It's okay, you can share answers.
Yeah, very similar. I think our approach, because we do have a lot of data, it's trying to make little wins along the way and trying to say, hey, our goal right now is summer camps. Let's focus on that data. Our next goal is tickets for next year. Let's focus on that and try to have little mini wins throughout those goals.
Talk about like you'd mentioned wins. Talk about the wins you've seen in the last year. What's the one program or thing that you did, and it just blew the socks off the house?
Okay, so we have a creative called Beat Mother, or it's called Mother, and our goal every year is to beat Mother. So we're not hurting Mom, don't worry. But she has been our best performer since I've been there, which has been 9 years. So every year we're trying to find new creatives that are ultimately going to either equal her performance or exceed her performance. And so we finally were able to do that last year with, surprisingly, because Mother's more of a funny, haha, don't ignore your mother, and you got a mom who is shaking her finger at you. But we went ahead and we did a little bit more of a toned down, calm version. So there's just like a woman standing there, and it had, messaging around just monitor your credit, look at your credit. And we saw that we had better performance with more of a straight to the point creative versus going to Mother, a funny creative.
Yeah.
So I think times are changing finally.
And what did the organization think? Did you talk about it in your org? Did you talk to your bosses? Did you highlight it, roadmap it?
Yeah. So this has been like an ongoing thing for our marketing department is, everyone always jokes about Mother. And so once we were able to finally get a winner, we put that all the way up to the top to show them that, we have finally got a new creative that we can use. So that's always a big one for us.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think our most recent is, and it kind of goes along with the one-to-one. We have flexible ticket plans that you can literally pick between 43 games, and you can pick 4, and it's all over the board of like it could be weekend, non-weekend, different opponents. And it got too much for our sales reps. We'd get so many leads, but they couldn't work them fast enough. So we actually went to a survey approach where we had them build their plan. We kind of gave them different restrictions on how they could build it, but it was a survey, and it went through email, and it sold, I don't remember the percentage, an obnoxious amount more, because they were able to build the plan, and then the rep could call and just go ahead and have it ready for them.
Cool. You both have small teams, which is not uncommon, right? And as long as I've been in email, I've run into, even at the largest enterprise level, 4 or 5 people, 3 people. One of the realities in personalization at scale for any company is we just don't have the bandwidth. And you said it earlier. We have to make choices about what data we use and what scenarios we play out because there's just not enough time in the day. Why do you think, knowing that your boss may be watching on the camera, what would you hope your company would make in the investment, in what areas? To get your team bigger? You're given a free blank check to hire people up to 10 people. What would that team look like, and how would that transform your program? What could you do with that extra investment?
I'd have a graphic designer just for me.
Just for you?
That's fair. Yeah, we have one creative person for all of our marketing too. So that would be nice. I think also just more like data analysts and then people on the tech side to be able to send more data over to our iterable platform, because I'm kind of jealous of, the idea of I have so much data that I don't know what to do with. I feel like we're in that spot of we have a great amount of data, but we're ready to take it to the next level, and to do that we need more data going over to our platform.
How much did COVID change your programs?
I was hoping you'd make it to this question.
Huh?
I said I was hoping you'd make it to this question.
Of course.
Ours changed completely. We went from playing games to not playing games in the matter of like 2 hours in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. It was a complete shift. So obviously now you're having to entertain people and keep people in your email subscription list with no basketball, nothing going on. Players aren't doing, there's literally nothing to talk about for a while. And then when you moved into the playoffs, that was on Teams. We moved into now trying to have virtual fans. Now you're trying to keep virtual fans involved. I actually was kind of in that group in charge of virtual fans and Teams, so I'm a Teams expert now. But I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's great. But it moved to a really interesting way of we had to change. We don't have pregame emails. It was like watch on TV because that was the only option. And you're trying to keep people involved when there's just nothing going on.
And for you, you have you have an enormous amount of data that now went to nothing.
Nothing. Or we were making it up. We had like
Talks about the making it up part.
well, I mean, like for instance, we have, let's say, a youth list. We know that they have children in their household, so we were like Rumble coloring pages that you could print off at home. I mean, we were just like coming up with anything that we could do to send out to these groups to keep them entertained and keep them on our email subscription list. Down to watch this video of Rumble exercising. Like, I mean, literally anything we could do, because that's pretty much one of the only people we had that we could have content for was our mascot. So there's a lot of Rumble lovers during COVID season.
How many times can you put a mascot in an email?
A lot.
A lot. All right. Meg?
Yep, so we were the opposite.
You were the opposite, yeah.
Yep.
Because
So
credit still exists, whether or not you're...
whether you have a job or not, but also the interest rates went down really low, so we had a huge uptick as people were looking to buy houses, buy cars, invest in their future, especially like personal loans, an example, because that big DIY boom, like everyone decided that they could improve their houses or do something there. So we saw an increase in engagement. We saw an increase in people getting our product. And luckily for us, like there wasn't too much different things that we needed to do. We just kind of lucked out in a sense.
Yeah. Do you guys do progressive profiling? Do you ask the questions of people? I know in your world, it's got to be tough.
Yeah, we have very basic questions on the website, and it'll help drive some of the website engagement and features on the website. But for email, we don't have those questions coming over to us.
Okay.
I survey a lot of people.
Do you? Tell us.
Get a lot. I think it's a little bit different, obviously, than hers. Like I can be like, I can auction, or not auction. I can do an enter to win to say, hey, if you'd like to get this signed autographed jersey, please answer these 5 questions. And people have no problem answering those 5 questions.
And do you take that back, and does that bake into your segmentation?
Yes.
Okay.
All the time.
How stale does your data become? How do you fight that?
We try to work the same questions in at least once a year. So whether we call it like a bonus question on something else that we're doing, or we actually have a monthly survey that goes out for our sponsorship team called Thunder Insights Program, where the BI team has a bonus question every single month. So we try to make sure each year to ask the same one so that we can actually make sure that that data is not getting stale. And then work in like one new one here and there each year. So it just kind of depends, but we survey quite a bit.
Let's carry the stale data question into the rest of the data you have, right? Because you were telling me you can track what they buy, where they sit, all that stuff. How often do you refresh that to make sure to look at any trends or any movements inside and outside of regular behavior?
I think that falls into sometimes it depends on the data set. Obviously, ticketing we're looking at on a daily basis, but like food and beverage may be monthly or even longer than that. Merch is one we look at monthly, but I won't say we dig in more than once a year to really like dig into it. So it depends on the data set a little bit, but we live in the ticketing data set because obviously that's the newest data set. It's them putting money down. We know where they sit, how much they spent, which team they went to, the time of game, the time of day. So we really dig into that a lot more. But some of the other ones I would say get kind of stale just because we don't look at them as often.
And Meg?
So ours is entirely dependent on the customer. So all the information that comes, they need to log in and refresh in order to get the latest information that they have if they're a member. If they decide to cancel, then we stop using that data because we stop refreshing it. So it's not really viable to us, especially 6 months down the road.
Yeah.
I'll add one more. I think it's also really important to think when you ask the data if it can become stale. So we've tried to move away from what's your age to what's your birthday, making sure that if we get their age, obviously we can like compound that and we know what it is. But if you don't know when that age was put in, then you just have no idea how old they are at that time. Well, also certain data points, like if we ask their t-shirt size for something, we're not going to keep that in our system because that can change, as we all know. I think that's
Trust me, I know.
I think there's certain data points that you have to be really careful of, like what you keep. Like I'm never going to keep t-shirt size. It's just not helpful. It's only helpful at that one point in time. So you have to think through when you're getting that data, when you're asking it, and then when you're putting it into your data warehouse or something. Is that data going to be something that's stagnant, or can it change?
No, I like that. Meg, you talked about KPIs. Do you look at, you send a campaign to help people within the segment they're in. right? Do you look at the movement of that customer at a granular level to say, this message worked, or it contributed to it, or we saw an increase? Is that a KPI you look at or would want to look at?
Would love to look at that. So we don't have the data right now that shows that someone went from, one credit score range to another. Also the, ability to do that, it takes a long time to get from, a 1 to a 2 or whatnot. But we do look at like login rates. If they purchased, we have a 3-in-1 upsell report. So we'll look at that. And then of course cancel and refresh rates.
Okay. And how often do you look at that? Is that monthly? And what's your proximity to the data? You're TransUnion, right? You got data, a lot of stuff, but you told me that you don't have access to it all. But how often do you get to refresh that and use it in your programs?
Yeah, so we can refresh it daily if we want to. We look at it typically on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And if we start to see dips or whatnot in login rates, for example, then we'll go back to that creative and see what's going on or what changed. Maybe volume has changed and whatnot, and try to change it up.
What's been so we talked earlier about one failure or learning opportunity, right? What has been your biggest, and we talked about the successful campaign. Tell me about another learning opportunity that you guys had that's kind of defined what your program is and how you kind of think about email sophistication, right? Or just, gosh, this was easy, I'm going to do this 12 times.
I would say I think one thing to really think through for us was we have brand new fans that come in and they're 20, 23, kind of in college. They're really excited. They just moved to Oklahoma, something like that. Where we also have our season ticket member base, which is we'll just say quite a bit older, and we have to service them differently. So for us, one of the things we really think through is. We don't do dynamic every week because we're a small team and we have trouble with that. So some of the things we work on is we might have a video with some text because the older generation wants the text, they want to read it, but then the newer generation wants the video. So trying to work through that generational email in one email is something that we're really working on right now. And I think that that's kind of some of the wins we've been able to bring is a different layout that is just more friendly for both generations.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep, so we thought age would be our kind of first segment that we'd go off of as we started to go down from the batch and blast to a little bit more segmented. So we had aged out everybody and started sending messages to them. And we saw decent results, but nothing amazing. And then we decided to switch it up and go for the credit score range instead. And that's where we really started to see a lot more engagement and people engaging with the different we do third-party offers, so mortgages, personal loans. We work with a bunch of different partners to provide those offers to our customers, and the credit score range was really the key that made us, as successful as we are today.
Oh, cool.
With that.
So, final question, and then we'll open up for questions from the group. Last night at the cocktail party, one of the things I said was there's a lot of people in here with years of experience in email, and you both have a ton of experience in very different capacities, right? What's your advice that you give to somebody that's still stuck in that batch and blast but wants to get better, right? And I don't ever think it's the marketer's choice. I think everybody in this room and every marketer I've ever talked to is, I want to get to the nirvana of something more than just one message to everybody. From your experience and from what you've done in your programs, what's that bit of advice that you give to somebody that's in that batch and blast to move beyond that?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to steal her thunder because we already talked about this, but it's small wins. Just going and focusing on one thing. If it's A/B testing, do A/B testing. If it's video versus non-video, do that. But do it a couple times, and it's never going to be like you send one email and all of a sudden you're like, emojis work in the subject line because this one email did better. You have to do it more than once. And so you just want to think through a plan. So if it's trying to figure out subject lines, do that for a month. If it's figuring out videos, do that for a month. Try to really do multiple tests to make sure that you can say confidently that that's what worked. And then I think really working with your data team, CRM team, whoever that may be, if you don't understand the data, the creativity is not there for you. You're never going to think, oh, I should be sending this other group of people something else if you don't understand the data.
Good advice.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the situation. So if you're in a spot where you just don't have that much data, it's focusing on how do you get that data, whether it's using, third party or, like us, we wound up moving to a different ESP that was able to ingest our data better. So that would be like my first suggestion. The other one is tailing off of her, like those small ones. So for our non-member base, we don't have any data fields on them that we can really use. We just know the basics of like their first name and their birthday. So it was focusing on things like engagement. So I'm gonna tailor these down to people who are, in the first couple of weeks of engagement, or have they been engaging forever, or are they starting to lapse and going down? Do we change up what we message to them? So that was our kind of first start into the segmentation for our non-member area, was just the engagement spot. So we started to do that, and now we're working to figure out sort of what the next phase of segmentation is.
I like that neither of you talked about personalizing the subject line or, that kind of stuff. That this move from batch and blast is actually like, you have to try big stuff. You have to, and the incremental innovation path of let's start small and do small things, and they add up to a big leap. That's critical.
Well, and I think you have to be careful too. You have to listen to the feedback. We actually don't personalize a lot of our emails by name, because we ran into, like, let's just say for me, my husband's name and my name, it may be under my husband's name, but then the wife would be like, no, I do the season tickets. I don't know why you're putting his name. Like, we ran into that, and we got a lot of feedback that people were upset that it wasn't inclusive and including everybody in the household, because the whole household goes to the game. Yeah. And so we actually have moved away from putting those in subject lines, or saying, like, to Ryan, like, we want to make sure that it's, to the Thunder fan, to the season ticket member, we want to, like, name them more by what they are than their name, because we've took that feedback and made it better.
How often do you talk to your CSRs about that? About what the feedback is? How do you get that information?
Don't judge me, but what is the CSR?
Customer service rep.
Okay.
That's okay.
No.
You don't have to apologize. There are so many freaking acronyms in this world, I can't keep track of them all.
So it's either with the rep or the guest relations team, but we read through, so we actually do the surveys for the guest relations team, so we read through those, and they actually do a monthly and a yearly report that they give back to everybody. So we kind of take that feedback, but we sit right next to we call them account managers, and so they may walk in our room and be like, so-and-so's mad, you should change it. Like, it's very open, because we're right next to them.
When I was at Sears, and then I'll open up to questions. When I was at Sears, I used to regularly meet with all of the customer service team, because they would consolidate all these things in their own reports, but they never had anybody to send it to. And so then when I perked up and said, send me everything about email, they were like, oh my God, we have feedback. And it's a great way for people to get in touch with that voice of the customer, right? And what's pros and cons of our own program. And we may think it's amazing, and we send it, and customers are like, well, this is a load of crap. All right, questions from the audience. Where's Phil Donahue? There we go.
Questions. Ooh, got loud. Oh, here we go, right in front of me.
Hi, hello, Ryan. Chris Marriott from Email Connect. It's interesting in here. I mean, one of the things, and Megan, you touched on it, that you had to switch ESPs in order to organize and manage the data, because both of you are very, I would imagine, are householding and storing non-customer data around that is oftentimes very difficult in a relational database. So without getting too geeky, how is your thinking on gathering and storing that data? Do you currently have a CDP as part of your MarTech stack? Is that something you're thinking about, or are you trying to manage that in your ESP itself?
We manage ours in our data warehouse. I tend to think that data is better, so I don't manage it where I'm sending the emails, but I either manage it there. I code very little, but I can code through it a little bit. I manage it there, or for us, like, ticketing is kind of the overarching, so we'll pull it out of the ticketing database. But those are the two that I trust to pull it out of.
Yeah, we have a data warehouse too that sends over to our ESP. So it's pretty basic, I think. I think there's more improvement to be had there.
Danielle, I have a question. So you talked a little bit about earlier, you have the brand of Oklahoma City Thunder, but you also have the brand of the players that you have to keep in mind. Have you found that there are particular players that come through that have kind of that you see better engagement rates when you feature particular players versus just the brand itself?
Yeah, so if you get a lot of emails from different teams, that everybody has a different basketball operations kind of like legal thing. We're all about the front of the jersey and not the back of the jersey. So ours is actually the opposite. We'll do more team shots. We do a lot more less player, more team, more results of what's happening on the floor as a whole. So we don't do as much, but you will see different teams. I won't name anybody that have some bigger stars that it's plastered all over their emails. So it just really depends on the team. But for us, it's all about Thunder being the main brand. And then kind of what we talked about, they just make sure that we're using the right vernacular. If it's a picture and they may say like, we don't really like the way his face looks in that shot or something like that. So it's more about their brand from what we're allowed to put on the emails. But it just depends on the team on kind of, but they regulate that. Like I don't hear from them. It's all operations that tells us something needs an edit.
Got it. Oh, one more.
Kelly Haggard from Synchrony. I was listening to you, Daniel, talk about how you also see whether or not they've gone and bought a hot dog or a beer at the game. So do you use any kind of contact scoring for your prospects and customers?
Yeah, so most of the food data, as an example, is from season ticket members and half-season ticket members. It's a loyalty program, so we know what they're buying. But for everybody else, we kind of have buckets that we put them in. We have, if they're a merch buyer but they've never bought a ticket, then they're a different type of buyer. If they buy tickets and that's all they buy, they're one type of buyer. If they are more like, we read emails and we like to interact, then that's it. So we have more buckets, not necessarily like scores. But we want to reach them all where they're at. So we also have international, we have all over the US. So we kind of have to make sure we tailor a lot of our emails to that. We talked a little bit about, we even have like our territories. So for NBA teams, we can only reach certain TV spaces. So a game, for instance, may say ticket holders, non-ticket holders, TV watchers, and then everybody else would be watched on the app. So we have to make sure we're really location-based as well. So it's kind of a full, I guess, gambit, if that answers your question. But we do have buckets that we put them in.
Do you do any addressable television? So I can target household television with a media commercial.
Yeah, I don't do a lot with it, but our sponsorship team obviously
Okay.
has to figure all that out.
All right, cool.
Cliff Seltzer from Pure Send. Question for Danielle. Sorry, Megan. Basketball is much more exciting than credit scores. I'm sorry. It's tough to be able to.
You must have a good credit score, otherwise it'd be
Yeah.
really important.
So I'm curious, as a subscriber of multiple teams, some that have sold out and really it's a different focus from the email market, as you mentioned, than some that are pushing tickets. How do you think kind of email worked? Do you live both those worlds? They were selling out. You didn't have to sell tickets. You was more brand awareness and other things, as compared to now you're trying to sell tickets. What do you think email works better with in terms of those two focuses? And then from your perspective, what's kind of more enjoyable? Is it trying to get those seats or just trying to keep things going, as you've seen both worlds on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I don't have to hit an ROI and I can just have fun at work, that's definitely a lot more enjoyable for me. But coming from the statistics data world, like I think it's exciting. So if we implement something and I can see it's working, then that actually kind of gets me going. So I kind of enjoy both lanes. But obviously when we're winning and we don't have to sell tickets, that's way more fun just on a personal note as well, especially going to playoffs. So I'd say both, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Meg, I'll be fair to you, and then I think we're good. How do you keep credit stuff fun? How do you keep your job fun? How do you not walk in the world going, I have to do credit today?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I sat next to our copywriter, and it was a weekly occurrence at like 3 o'clock. We'd both get a little dazed and need a break, and all we did was come up with ridiculous catchphrases and whatnot, and who could be our sponsor. So we had like, check your credit before you wreck your credit, and we'd get Mr. T to be our a spokesperson. None of these would ever make it to legal. We already knew that they would not like that, but that was kind of our way of just, let's get some like crazy wild ideas out there, and it would be fun to do. But then after that, we started toning it down a little bit and realized, oh, there's actually a little nugget in here, and we would go with that. So I think it's definitely, people are key to helping us keep it fun and exciting, because I know credit is not anybody's favorite thing to talk about or even want to deal with. So that's certainly an interesting challenge of the job.
Cool.
Ryan, Danielle, Megan, thank you guys so much. I think I speak for everybody, Danielle, that yes, if we didn't have to track ROI, everyone would enjoy their jobs significantly better. Maybe that's going to be the theme of our next conference.